Hi, we're going to try something today, see how much time I have to actually do this. I'm going to be putting together my peanut butter cookies, my basic ones with Hershey's Kisses on top for a special customer named Cindy, and wanted to at least give you a little bit of a rundown of what we do as far as this cookie. I'm not going to make it as long as my other videos. That was quite the chore, and I'm alone, so I don't really have an opportunity for someone to film this. So, first I want to show you the ingredients that we're going to use. Okay. First we have our butter. Now I use, as I've mentioned before, I think, challenge butter. The salted you want for cookies. Occasionally you can get away with unsalted, for instance, for sugar cookies. It takes a pound, which is, there you go, 2 half sticks, or 2 full sticks, excuse me. We've got 2% milk here. I've got Hershey's Kisses. I've got the only peanut butter worth buying to put in any kind of cookie. Jif. It can be creamy or chunky. I prefer creamy at the moment for this. Of course, my favorite flour, King Arthur, all-purpose, unbleached, has the best protein content available. Morton iodized sea salt, Arm & Hammer baking soda, McCormick pure vanilla, Reese's chips. The sugars I use, Domino dark brown. Occasionally I'll use a light brown sugar in something, but dark brown just gives it so much more of a rich flavor. Almost every cookie I will do with dark brown. And then, of course, the only sugar that I use for regular sugar is the Zalka Marina Pure Cane Sugar. All right, so those are the ingredients. I'm just going to go ahead and put them together. You'll see bits and pieces, but you'll get the basic idea of how we go through this. Okay, so we have our butter that we have softened in the microwave into our bowl. Why do I have a second bowl over here? That's a garbage pail. Maybe you've seen it used on various shows. It's just another bowl. I have one that's coated with a red coating just to set it apart from the other ones. You need somewhere to throw all of your garbage as you're working, otherwise you have a big mess going on. Okay, I'm starting to work the butter. You can see how it's starting to break apart. I'm going to work it with this fork until I get it creamy. Okay, I have 1 cup of granulated sugar, 1 cup of firmly packed brown sugar. And firmly packed means firmly packed in there. You want it to take up the whole space of the cup if you can, because it allows a lot of air in between the granules, and you don't want to short yourself on the sugar in that case. So we're going to put those into the butter and then we're going to work it. Alrighty, they are in there, so let's now grind it all together with that fork. Okay, there is our butter and sugar mixture. Now don't worry, it'll seem a little bit dry right now, but we're going to be adding some cream to that really soon, so hang on. Okay, we've got 1 cup measured out. I like to go just a little over the cup. We want these things to be creamy, and if you're getting peanut butter cookies, you might as well taste peanut butter, right? Okay, we're going to do 4 tablespoons of milk and drop that in there. And then 2 teaspoons of real pure vanilla. If it's not pure vanilla extract, you're going to end up with a high alcohol content. It's going to leave a bitter flavor in your mouth. If you don't want that and you want it to be smooth and you want to use real vanilla, not to mention, real vanilla will really bring out the flavor, so don't skimp on it if you can. Now the eggs, and these are not your ordinary eggs. These eggs come from my sister who raises some hens, and these are her own private stock. I get them from her, and they are fantastic. I get the biggest ones I can get, and I feel bad for some of these hens. Some of these things are enormous. If you cannot find them, you want to use extra large eggs. I know the recipes will all call for large. Extra large gives you so much more of a cookie. For an important safety tip, be sure you wash your hands after you've dealt with raw eggs. I like to be really, really careful and safe with those, just like you would with raw meat. You never know. Once it's cooked, it's fine. Once it goes in that heat, it's in good shape. But wash your hands after you've gotten the eggs ready and put them in the bowl. Okay, so once you've whipped this really good, you've released the glutens in the eggs. Usually takes me a couple of minutes at hard and fast whipping that good, like Devo would say. And we have our mixture. Release the glutens in the eggs. It's okay. You're not going to over whip them and make something too light in the area of the flour. We'll beat that down. But you'll still end up with a nice thick cookie. Okay, now we're going to add 2 teaspoons of baking soda and 1 teaspoon of salt. Then we're going to add 4 really pressed down cups of flour. If you just kind of measure it without really pushing it in there, you're going to lose on some flour. It's one of the reasons why you can get such a good thick cookie that like I get, because I don't skimp on the flour. Okay, our 4 cups are in, and now we are going to mix it all together. And this takes a little bit of elbow grease. Okay, there is our basic batter. It is very thick, but you're going to be rolling it, and it's gonna. Don't worry, that peanut butter is going to make it maintain enough grease to not be a little ball of flour. But you want to work it until you do not see any flour in it. That could take a while. If you do it by hand, it's difficult. If you use a mixer, a standalone mixer, obviously a lot easier. But I not only don't have a standalone mixer, except you consider me standing alone in the kitchen mixing it, and that's what we have. Now you're going to take an entire bag of Reese's peanut butter chips, and you're going to put those in there, and you're going to mix them all in, just like you would a chocolate chip cookie with chocolate chips. Why do I use these as opposed to maybe something that would be more in line with the Jif? Very simple explanation. I want the little bit of a dichotomy between the two peanut butter flavors. I think it just adds a little something different to it. Okay, the chips are worked into the batter. Don't be alarmed. Some of them will fall to the bottom. You'll have to kind of use a spoon or a hand to dig them back up. That's because the dough is not a very greasy dough. And it will become greasy as it goes along, but it's not now. So once these are worked in and you have a fairly good mix, it's not going to be perfect. You'll have some that have a few more than others. You just try to make it as even as you can. Now we're going to roll these up into balls. Okay, so we have our fork here. We're going to take it on top of the cookie. And using most of the back end of it, you'll see, you make your little grid pattern. Now, since we have chips in there, some of them will want to try to escape, and sometimes you need to play with it a little bit and to get it just right. Once you have your grid pattern, then you come over here to your sugar bowl, have your soup spoon here, and guess what? You drop some sugar in there, and I try not to be too cheap with that. All right, so we're going to do that for a while now, so just hang tight. Here's a handy little tip. If your fork is sticking to the cookies when you're using it, place it back in the sugar. That'll kind of take some of the stick off of it, and you're going to use the sugar on top of the cookies anyway, so it's just a good little handy baking tip. And these are going to go into our oven at 375 for 15 minutes. And that will change as subsequent pans go in, and as the oven picks up a certain temperature and the pans become more room temperature, you're going to want to start bringing that 15 minutes down to 14 and a half, eventually to 14. And if you have a pan with less than 12 cookies on there, drop it even more. Now we can't forget that we have these Hershey's Kisses. I had them in the refrigerator. I like them to be chilled. It makes them a little bit better, and they don't fall apart or melt so quick when they're going to hit the cookie. You need to now unwrap some. And since I do 2 per cookie, I better have 24 of them done before I even start putting cookies on the next pan. Okay, those are our first 24 Kisses there. And now they're going to go back into the refrigerator so they don't get too melty when they hit the cookie. Okay, just now pulled these out of the oven. There they are. You see a slight bit of brown, just what you want to see. As far as if you want a dough that's nice and chewy on the outside, once it cools, a little bit of crisp on the very edges, but those should be perfect. So now we need to put our Kisses on, and quickly. Okay, so you see you have the cookies here. You push these in just a little bit. You don't want to push them down very far, or you can end up with a problem, such as they go right to the bottom of the cookie. It could be a little bad. So here's so I can get a picture of it here. Just a little bit of pressure, not a lot. Just a little bit close to each other, and they will start to sink. You'll see the ones here on the edge I did first are already starting to gloss up a little bit as they get hot. If you push on them again, you'll end up with a mess. However, it is kind of fun at this point to point out that 15-year-old boys would have a really, really fun time making fun of these cookies. Okay, batch 2 just went in the oven. We're going to let those ones on the stove sit there, usually 10 minutes or so. You want them to stay on that hot pan and continue to just slowly cool down. That way the Kisses get melted just the right amount. The cookie, if there's anything in the middle there that needs to just firm up a little, it'll do that too. And then we're going to move them and cool them. Here's another little important safety tip. When you're unwrapping the Hershey Kisses for the tops of cookies, make sure all the aluminum foil is gone. If any of you have ever bitten down on something like that, you know what I'm talking about. This is what I use for my initial cooling rack some days, especially if it's nice and cold out, because I'll leave a window open above them. And some people have cooling racks. You can use that if you want. This is my method, in part because I don't have a cooling rack, and also because it's just kind of like the old-fashioned way that Grandma did it, right? Just leave it by an open window. Okay, that's pretty much how you make them. At one point, you might want to put them in the freezer. I usually do after they've sat out for maybe 10-15 minutes or so and cold. I'll put them in the freezer just to kind of solidify things up so that I can put them in a container without, crushing the Hershey Kisses or melting them down or anything. And that's pretty much where you're at. That is a batch of peanut butter cookies, and I guarantee you they're good.